All right, hey everybody. This episode of Talk to Things ships with an article titled Hacking Habits, and today is actually a conversation rather than being completely solo. I'm actually here with a friend who introduced me to tracking habits with Google Sheets. I'm with Mabel Gort. Say what's up.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm a yellow worm. It's pretty cool.
So I'm actually in California right now. Maple's in Texas, but we're both in this wacky virtual chat room talking about building and breaking habits. So real quick, what's a habit that you've picked up recently, and how are you actually tracking it?
So this might be a cop-out answer, but I would think reading books is one thing I tried to pick up recently in college. I tried, and I failed many times. But I think that when I'm picking up habits, the key really is consistency. I was listening to a podcast today with Jim Collins, and he was talking about how consistency kind of starts the flywheel of kind of your own life going.
Totally.
So I think that like consistency can with it is a lot of work at the beginning, but if you get the consistency, you can like start the flywheel, and it just becomes easier and easier. So you get on that exponential curve, and you're compounding your kind of time, and you're leveraging that to maintain and kind of create these productive habits.
Totally. I remember a week ago we were talking about habits, and we both noticed that sometimes life gets in the way, or we have other valuable parts of our life
Yeah,
that come into play, and that forces us to either break routines or think really hard about what our habits are.
for
So,
sure.
in your mind, what's important to track when something like that happens, and is it okay to break a routine?
Yeah, so I think it's an interesting question. I think that a lot of people get into retreat routines blindly. So what I mean when I say that is a lot of people do it for the sake of routines. For example, people will get like a gym membership and go 5 days a week to the gym just because they think it'll help them. But if there's no kind of intrinsic drives to do that, and there's no kind of impact at the end of that, you really shouldn't be doing it. I think that if you really want to make a routine, you should think long and hard about what that routine is going to accomplish, and then what you're going to do to accomplish that. Because a lot of people, I think, they just kind of do routines just to do them. And I kind of fell into that trap too, where I was kind of doing routines just to kind of have my life a bit, I guess, very rigid and planned out and scheduled. But yeah, like you were talking about before, that leads to a lot of breakage of those routines. And I think that long term, they're not really helpful.
Totally, totally. So if you were to cultivate, or if you were to pick up a new habit tomorrow, how would you go about
Yeah.
doing it? How would you go about tracking it and making sure that you're actually doing it well and improving?
So yeah, I think a lot of people have different ways to approach this. I know that over college, like we were talking about before, I did a lot of tracking on like Google Sheets because I like the data and just seeing that change over time. For example, I would track things like how I spend my time, my weight, like when I was working out, like the kind of weights I lifted, kind of becoming stronger over time, and several things like that, where I tried to kind of experiment on myself.
Yeah,
But after that, I think that once you put in that effort to kind of first think about why you're doing the routine, and then kind of start tracking it. I think that tracking goes a long way in the very beginning, but then, like I was saying before, you get that flywheel going, and then I don't think it's necessarily um, required to start tracking all the time, because I've actually learned that, for me specifically with working out, if you can just do it every day and think about it every day at least, then you don't need to track it over time. Like I've gotten to a point where I can kind of put that at the back of my mind, but it's kind of still a routine that's going. So I think that's a good way to leverage tracking and the tools we have. But I do think that it could be detrimental long term if you keep trying to like hold yourself to too high of a standard over years and years and years, and then you kind of feel bad that you broke your routine. I think it's just better to kind of set some time aside to know that like you're going to go all in on this routine, and then just know that if you're consistent, then you don't have to keep this kind of mental burden throughout the years.
That's a really good point. I feel like once you pick up a habit and you get into the routine of just tracking it becomes a part of your sort of daily ritual.
Yeah, exactly.
It just becomes a more natural part of your life, and you don't even have to be as intentional about tracking it anymore, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I also think that another good way to kind of see where your habits are going, or like maybe instead of tracking every day, and you can kind of track like maybe on the first of every month, you kind of do this retrospective where you look at your habits, look at you like how you spend your time, basically kind of shift it around to target a few important things that you want to get done in that month, and then ask yourself if the routines that you've tried to develop and the habits are going to get you to that point. So I think those once a month check-ins on yourself and kind of being introspective, I think helps a lot. And I think that obviously that's where kind of meditation and mindfulness fits in when you kind of think of your life at like a higher level.
Nice, dude. This is great. Thanks for hopping in with me.
For sure, man. I love being this cute little worm. So this is really fun.
All right, man.